Bukayo Saka out for what Arteta says to be many weeks. Whatever the hell that means. Many weeks could be 6, 7, 8, 9, 15, 20. Who knows? I don't think he'll be out for 20, to be honest. I think I was probably just going a bit crazy there. But yeah, Arteta said he's out for many weeks, and some reports came out saying he probably will be out till March, which is a pretty significant period, especially when you consider that we are in a title race, technically, because we're 6 points behind Liverpool. They still haven't extended that gap, even with the game in hand. If Liverpool win that, I don't think they will, but if they win that game, the gap increases to 9 points, which is exactly where we were. I would say like 3 weeks ago. Um, and yeah, look, it's bad news. It's bad news. This is probably the one player most Arsenal fans were very afraid of losing due to injury. And I will address one thing before I discuss like what I think Arsenal need to do now to try and reduce the damage that we could potentially face from this injury. I want to discuss one important thing that I've been seeing um, discussed in different channels or on different social media platforms, um, and that is this for me personally, this ridiculous notion that this was due coming or this is on Arteta. I think right now people have this crazy tendency. I say crazy, it's not really a crazy tendency, but I think people now are in this phase where they want to blame Arteta for many things that, like, whatever happens with the club, no matter how bad it is, throw it on Arteta, throw it on Arteta. And while I think Arteta is to blame for many things, and I've already said that at the end of the season, if he regresses or stagnates us, I think he should get sacked. Um, so I'm not some Arteta fanboy. But the reality is, I don't think this injury is on him, in my opinion. I really don't. When you have players like Bukayo Saka, like Mohamed Salah, like Vinny Jr., and I'm not saying Bukayo Saka is in their level. I think they're a level above Bukayo Saka. But when you have players of that kind of importance, I think the Bukayo Saka's importance to Arsenal is the same as Vinny Jr.'s importance to Real Madrid. That doesn't mean he's on Vinny Jr.'s level. Vinny Jr. is a step higher. And Vinny Jr. is not just world class, but in my opinion, he's the best or one of the best players in the world right now. Um, Same goes with Mohamed Salah. But Saka, just like them, is of that much importance to Arsenal, right? And when you have a player who's that important and that's significant to the way you play and that's significant to your attack, you cannot afford to rest him in the Premier League and Champions League games. That's just the reality of things. Because that's what people are referencing. I don't think people are referencing the League Cup games because he didn't start the last two League Cup games. He didn't start against Preston, I think, and he didn't start against Crystal Palace. He came off the bench in the second half. Um, so when people are talking about managing his minutes, they're obviously referring to the Champions League and the Premier League. And it's ridiculous for us to be thinking that, oh yeah, he needs to be benched in the Premier League, and you shouldn't be starting him every single game. No, we have to start him every single game. I'm sorry to break it down to you, Arsenal fans, for Arsenal fans saying this, because rivals, I get it. Rivals sometimes come with banter and stuff. But even for rivals who are saying this seriously without banter, we're not flying top of the league or top of the Champions League, where we have such a decent cushion that we can afford to make certain changes to like some of our core players, right? We don't have that kind of cushion. We're hunting right now. We're chasing the pack. In this case, we're chasing Liverpool in the Premier League, which means you have to start your core in every single Premier League game. You cannot afford to rest some of your main guys like Saliba, like Gabriel, like for me, even Odegaard, like Saka. You cannot afford to be resting these guys. Now, I don't mind. I'm a huge proponent of rotation. I've praised Pep Guardiola and Man City for doing it successfully for the last couple of years. But I think that rotation has to come either if you are leading and you're the best team in the world or the best team in the country and you have that incredible of a squad. And as much as I praised our squad depth in the summer in many departments, I don't think we're the best team in the world to be having that kind of cushion. And secondly, we're not flying top of the league like 7, 8 points clear where we can afford to rest some of our core players. I think the rotation we do right now in the Premier League has to be in positions where the drop off is not tremendous, right? So, like games where we know we're going to dominate possession and we're not going to have to defend a lot, I don't mind rotating between Partey and Jorginho. Games where, again, in certain games like this as well, I don't mind rotating between, let's say, Calafiori and Lewis Skelly, right? I don't mind rotating between Martinelli and Trossard, Rice and Moreno. You get what I mean? Ben White when he's back, Ben White and Timber. These positions, I think it's okay for us to rotate in these kind of positions, right? What I don't think it's okay for us to do is to rotate Saka or Saliba or Gabriel or Odegaard when these guys are available, because the drop off from them to whoever is on the bench, no matter who we have on the bench, is still a significant enough drop off. And for anyone saying, oh, you should have got someone as backup for Saka to be of that level, we were never going to get a quality right winger to be a backup for Saka. Because a quality right winger would not want to come to the team and be a backup player. The kind of wingers I would have wanted us to go for are not the wingers people would be happy for or happy with. When I say the kind of wingers, I'm not saying I don't have someone I don't have a particular name in mind, but what I mean is the profile of wingers, and that is right wingers, left-footed right wingers, who are not that well known and don't play in the Premier League. Because the reality is, any right winger you go for in the Premier League that's of quality, like Mbuemo, like Bowen, like Kudus, like who else is there? Semenyo. What other mid-table teams are there? Man United is a mid-table team. Diallo. United fans won't like that. These kind of teams, look, this is the thing with the Premier League, right? Like, we like the Premier League. We say it's the most exciting league to watch or the best league in the world. But that also, a big part of that is because all the teams get a fair share of money and they all have enough money or they have enough leverage because of their financial position to demand a high fee for their players. So teams like Bournemouth and Brentford and West Ham are not going to sell you their star wingers for peanuts. It's just the reality. And Arsenal is not going to go spend 70, 80 million on Semenyo or 100 million on Kudus or God knows how much they would ask for Bowen or I don't know, 70, 80 million on Buemo, because that is what those kind of teams will demand, right? What I think Arsenal should be doing now in January is going into the market. If it's true that Saka is out for like until March, if he's only out for like 4 weeks or so, then fair enough. I'd still focus on getting a striker first. But if he is going to be out until end of Feb or March, I 100% believe that our priority should be going to get a right winger in this Jan. And that doesn't have to be a world-class right winger. It doesn't have to be a right winger from the Premier League. You can go get a right winger from Ligue A, from the Bundesliga, from the Liga Portugal, from the Serie A, from the La Liga. There are definitely quality wingers out there that you can get for a decent price. Or worst case scenario, just get someone on loan. Because the way we play and the way we attack, in my opinion, I know people have been calling for Martinelli to stick on the right wing, or move Trossard there, or play Jesus there. And I'm gonna say, like, I'm just I cannot stand these kind of. I don't like playing wingers. I don't like playing left-footed wingers on the left or right-footed wingers on the right, because I think it just limits them tremendously. There's not it makes them too predictable, and it takes away the most dangerous element of a winger, and that is them cutting inside and taking a shot, or cutting inside and putting in a cross with their stronger foot, or just cutting inside and playing the 1-2 and or just running past their fullback by cutting inside and because think about it, right? When you're a winger, let's say if I'm a right-footed winger playing on the left wing, when you cut inside, the number of options you have are a lot more than when you go on the outside. Because when you go on the outside, your options are either you cross with your weaker foot, right? Or you go on the outside and you have that much space that you are able to run in, which most fullbacks in the Premier League are not going to let you do, right? Because they're going to close that run. So when you go on the outside, you'll probably have to cross with your weak foot, right? So if the only thing you have to do on your weak foot is cross, it's not that big of a deal. Lots of wingers can go on the outside and cross with their weaker foot. However, when you cut inside on your stronger foot, the reality is you have a lot more options, and that gives a bigger headache to the fullback that's marking you and even the centre backs. Because you could shoot, you could pass, you could play the 1-2, you could cross, you could just run in past your fullback and dribble another one or two players because they're running in and you're doing it with your stronger foot. So when you have more options of things to do when you cut inside, you want to be doing it with your stronger foot, not with your weaker foot. Because imagine a right-footed winger now playing on the right and cutting in on his weaker foot, cutting in on the inside, sorry. He has to now play with his weaker foot, with his left. And he's not going to be able to execute all these things at a high level. He's not going to be able to shoot at a high level. He's not going to be able to cross. Maybe crossing, fair enough, because as I said, if you can do it on the outside, you can probably do it on the inside as well. But you won't be able to shoot as well. You won't be able to link up as well. You won't be able to pass as well. So because there's a lot more options for you to do, a lot more options for you as a winger when you cut inside, you always want to cut inside on your stronger foot. So you can rely on your stronger foot for these different options. Versus when you go on the outside, most of the time, your only option is to cross the ball. In which case, your weaker foot can have that practiced over time, right? And you'll be able to cross with your weaker foot. Saka can cross with his weaker foot. Martinelli can cross with his weaker foot. Not as good as Saka, but he's done it many times when he goes on the outside and he puts in a cross with his left foot. And that's why I'm never a fan of wingers playing at the other wing. Like if you're a left-footed winger, you need to play on the right. If you're a right-footed winger, you need to play on the left, in my opinion. And that's, I think, when wingers are a lot more dangerous. If you look at the best 10 wingers of all time, I guarantee you most of them have played in the correct wing. Ronaldinho on the left, Neymar on the left, Messi on the right, Cristiano Ronaldo on the left, Hazard on the left, Salah on the right, Bale on the right. You won't find world-class Robin on the right, Ribery on the left. You won't find a lot of world-class wingers, especially in the last 10, 15, 20 years, who played at the wrong wing. And I'm going to call it the wrong wing because for me, it is wrong. And that's why I'm not a fan of Martinelli playing on the right side, because he just will be too predictable. Most of his options when he cuts inside are going to be eliminated. Versus when he's on the left, and let's say we get a left-footed winger to play on the right, we still keep that threat. And this is why internally, I'd rather fix the problem by getting Ethan Nwaneri on the right wing. Because he's left-footed, he can dribble, he likes to dribble, in fact. He can cut in, he's got decent pace. He's not Martinelli quick, but I think he's Saka kind of quick. So you get a similar profile of player on that side. Now, obviously, yes, he's not going to be as good as Saka. Nobody is as good as Saka in our club when it comes to attack. In fact, no one in the league outside Mohamed Salah, in my opinion, is as good as Saka in attack on the wings. But you still get a similar profile of threat, which means we still can play our same style of football. And by the way, it's not just when you cut in. Like, notice how many times, for example, when a fullback passes the ball forward to the winger, and let's say if the winger is getting pressed by the opponent's fullback, they're able to control the ball. Let's say if again, let me take Saka as an example. If Saka is a left-footed winger playing on the right. So when he receives the ball, let's say we're playing against Spurs and Udogi is pressing him, he can shield the ball with his body, right? He'll put his body between the ball and Udogi. And with his stronger foot, which is the left foot, he moves the ball and he tries to run inside. Now imagine if Saka was on the other side and he had to shield the ball and go inside with his weaker foot. He won't be able to do it as accurately. He won't be able to have that kind of close control dribbling the way he does with his weaker foot. It's just not possible because he's not Cazorla, right? Not every player is an ambipedalist. Yes, that's the word, by the way. It's not ambidextrous. Ambidextrous is for your hands. Ambipedalist is for your feet. Education time, see? But yeah, he's not an ambipedalist, so he's not going to be able to cut in on his weaker foot the exact same way and turn players and dribble them and do the close control dribbling the same way he does with his left foot. So I'm not a fan of playing Martinelli there. I know Trossard can play with his left foot, but he still prefers to dribble and cut with his right foot. So I don't think that's a solution in the long run either. And remember, everything I'm saying is with the idea that Saka is out until March, which is what some reports have suggested. If he's only out in Jan and he'll be back end of Jan or start of Feb, then I don't think it's that big of a disaster. I don't think it's that big of an issue. I think we can figure out something in that time. And in my opinion, that something has to be Waneri. If he's out until March, then internally the only way to fix it, in my opinion, is to play Waneri there. Some people are suggesting Kai Havertz, which still fits this theory because he's a left-footed player, so he can play on the right. But I just think he's a bit too. I think he's a bit too not slow, but he's a bit too sluggish sometimes for me to play on the wing, because I think wing you need someone dynamic and quick and someone who's willing to like be explosive, and I don't think he's that kind of player. So I would keep him competing with Jesus centrally, and I'd play Waneri there. But the ideal option for me is to go and get a right winger in the market. Someone on loan, if we cannot buy someone for like 20, 30 mil. Because we have to also be reasonable and understand we cannot just blow a huge chunk of our transfer money this January, especially if we are planning to buy a top quality striker in the summer. I don't think we are, to be honest. I don't trust this club to be getting the right striker in, because we haven't done that since Aubameyang, which was in 2018. But if we are planning to get a good quality striker in the summer, be it Gyökeres or Isak or Osimhen or whoever it is, and we are limited in terms of budget, because I don't know the financials of the club. I don't know like exactly how much money we have that we can spend without breaching PNS. PNS? It's called PSR. Sorry, PSR, Profit and Sustainability something. I don't know how much we're allowed to spend without breaching that. And this is why I want us to be careful, and I'm pretty sure the club will be careful about the way they spend money this January. Which is why I wouldn't go into this hype of, oh, let's just give Brentford 70 million and ask them for way more, or give West Ham 80 million and get Kudus, because it doesn't work that way. We approached Brighton a couple of years ago for Caicedo, and we offered 70 or 80 million, and they said no. Like, let's be honest. Like, clubs don't have to sell their main players. The only reason we got Trossard, we need a Trossard kind of signing, by the way. Someone who's 27, 28, can come in on like very cheap budget. And Trossard at the time had a falling out with De Zerbi, which is why the amount was quite less. If we can get some sort of winger like that, 27, 28, 29, who's still of decent quality and is not like high profile, so won't cost that kind of money, I'm all for it, right? Or worst case scenario, just try to get someone on loan, a left-footed winger on loan to play on the right wing, and hopefully someone who can come in and adapt quickly and just help us survive the next couple of months. I think survive is probably a strong word, and this is probably me going a bit over the top. But what I basically mean is just someone to help keep our momentum going, right? Now, obviously, that right winger is not going to just come in and replace Saka like Saka was never there. It's not going to be that way, because we did obviously speak about how important Saka is to the team. So I don't think he can just be replaced that way. But if we get a right winger who can do a decent job and just give us half the GA Saka does, and then hopefully some of the other players pick up the GA, like Odegaard, like Martinelli or Trossard on the left, whoever starts, like Jesus, if he continues his good run that he's had in the last 2 games, then I think we will be fine until Saka's back. But anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe as well, and see you guys in the next one.